Hey guys, it's Chris George, and I'm doing my physics video for Miss Silbert's grade 11 and 12 physics class. Today we're going to be talking about what happens when an unstoppable force meets an immovable object. Alright, so let's start with immovable objects. First of all, we need to define immovable. An immovable object is something that if it were sitting on the sidewalk and you tried to push on it, you could not get it to move, obviously. So, you cannot give it velocity. Immovable means velocity cannot be changed. Well, if the velocity can't be changed, then that means that it must always equal, that its acceleration must always equal 0. And we know from Newton's second law, written here as A equals F over m, that if the acceleration is always 0, then the mass of the object must be infinite. So no matter how much force you exert on it, when you divide it by infinity, you get 0. Now, we know from Einstein's equation, E equals mc squared, that if an object has infinite mass, then it must also have infinite energy, because that's just the way it equates, that's how it works out. And to clarify, we don't know if anything in our universe has infinite mass or infinite energy, and if it did, it would probably be a black hole that would swallow everything. But for the sake of argument, that doesn't happen in this perfect world. So, on to the next thing. Okay, unstoppable force. In this situation, an unstoppable force is something that cannot be brought to rest by pushing on it. Therefore, it cannot be slowed down. And if it can't be slowed down, then it must have infinite momentum. And if we look at the equation momentum equals mass times velocity, if a velocity is constant, say it's going at 100 miles per hour, then in order to have infinite momentum, that the mass must also be infinite. And we know from E equals mc squared that infinite mass equals infinite energy. Well, hang on, that looks familiar. The last thing we talked about, immovable objects, also had infinite mass and also couldn't accelerate. So they're the same thing, an unstoppable force and an immovable object, with different frames of reference. Well, okay, that's cool, but we still haven't answered what happens if they can't accelerate. What kind of collision would it be? Well, they can't stop, because if the velocity cannot be changed, the magnitude can't be changed. Can't bounce, because while that won't change the magnitude, it'll change the direction, so that is also acceleration. So what happens? Well, let's review. Both objects in question have infinite mass and always have 0 acceleration. Now, since acceleration is a change to a velocity's magnitude or its direction, then when an immovable object is hit by an unstoppable force, the only thing that can happen that will satisfy this rule of no acceleration is for the objects to pass right through each other without touching. That way, this object's speed and direction have not changed, and this object's speed and direction have not changed. So there you go. I hope you enjoyed this video and found it very informative. If you like it, please feel free to let me know. Have a good day. Bye.